Oh, it is. It is another episode of Donno Daily here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I am your host, Alex Donno. We have so much to get to, my friends, after an absolutely busy, chaotic, awesome day yesterday for the Miami Heat. Miami Dolphins are practicing in full pads for the first time in training camp. And guys, I feel like a kid in a candy store today because we're welcoming a new sponsor to the program. You know how much I love sports betting, and this is my favorite sports book to do it on. I am so pumped to welcome in BetUS.com to the 5 Reasons Sports family. Guys, bet with the 3-decade leader, BetUS. Join now for an 125% bonus or 200% bonus with crypto if you use our code. That's right, Donno's got your hookup. You sign up for BetUS.com, use our code 5RSN125. Those watching on YouTube, you see it on the screen. 5RSN125 is our code. It's very important to use the code because we have your hookup for 125% bonus. You can bet sports, casino, horses, pop culture even, and more at BetUS.com. You bet, you win, and you get paid with BetUS. And of course, we are served, as always, by the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill, the freshest seafood and the best place to watch every UFC pay-per-view fight with zero cover charge. Try the new jerk chicken sandwich and the new Italian beef sandwich, which is an awesome item. You will thank me later. Find the location nearest to you and peep their menu at QuarterdeckRestaurants.com. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. So welcome to everybody joining us on the live chat. By the way, make sure you smash that like button on YouTube and make sure you partake in the live chat. We'll be talking Heat. We'll be talking Dolphins with you guys. And today is a Tuesday. This is our first Tuesday show on 5R Live. And those of you who listened to me back on the Onside Radio days, you know what we love to do on Tuesdays, and that's air out some terrible takes. Terrible takes on sports, terrible takes on pop culture, terrible takes on food. Terrible Take Tuesday segment is coming up today. We'll have Antwan Staley joining us at around 12. Actually, he'll be at 12:40. Brady Hawk is going to join us at 12:15. We'll talk Heat with Brady Hawk. We'll talk Dolphins and NFL with Antwan Staley. And between those two interviews is when we're going to air out some truly terrible takes on a Terrible Take Tuesday today. Yesterday, as expected and as predicted, and is covered so well by everyone on our network. I was watching the stream last night with Ariel, with Alex, with our pal. Ethan popped in there as well yesterday. Alana, our new buddy who we spoke to on the show yesterday, doing a great job on the stream. And of course, Adam Barai, the man who actually does exist, did make an appearance on that stream. They were breaking down everything Heat free agency. The stream was pumping up. It was a beautiful thing. So as we all predicted, Kyle Lowry is in 3 years, $90 million in a sign and trade, expected to be Goran Dragic and Precious Achiuwa. PJ Tucker is in. This is one I wasn't expecting, but I do like it. He's in for 2 years, $15 million. Duncan Robinson is staying in Miami on a new 5-year deal worth $90 million. Max Strus and Gabe Vincent are staying, signing 2-year, two-way deals, $3.5 million standard contracts. Jimmy Butler signs a max extension for 4 years, $181 million. So the most important question, guys, we ask ourselves today, and there's a part A and a part B to this question. Did the Miami Heat get better? And if so, how much better have the Miami Heat gotten? Now, the answer to that first question, to me, is an emphatic yes. Now, I see some people trying to argue this, the point I'm about to make, saying that Kyle Lowry is not an upgrade over Goran Dragic. But anyone saying that, guys, is dead wrong. And I love Goran. I'm a huge Goran fan. I'm going to miss Goran's Austin Burke commercials. Listen, you come to Austin Burke, you get the Goran Dragic special. You get 2 suits for the price of 47 suit. I get my mother, my sister, my daughter, my brother. They all buy suit here. I'm going to miss that dude. And I'm telling you, Kyle Lowry's Austin Burke commercials will not be the same as the Goran Dragic commercials. But Kyle Lowry is an absolute upgrade over Dragic right now. Anyone who says otherwise is dead ass wrong. He's a serious upgrade as Lowry defensively. He's got a knack for taking and hitting big shots in a way, unfortunately, my guy Dragic doesn't always have. And Lowry last season, friends, at 34 and 35 years old last year, shot over 38% from three. Kyle Lowry makes this team better. There's also the Jimmy Butler angle and dynamic with him that I absolutely love, right? He's wanted to play with Jimmy. He's been desperate to team up with Jimmy Butler. So there's going to be extra chemistry there on and off the court. I do like the addition of PJ Tucker. And I like this comment here from Big John Stud. I think the Heat got better and PJ Tucker was a boss move. I agree with that. Even though PJ Tucker is 36 years old and he is, let's say, gracefully exiting his prime, I love his physicality and I love his toughness. And he just won a championship, as we all know, with Milwaukee. And by the way, something about PJ, he put up better numbers in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. And we know how much Pat Riley loves the guys who turn it on when the lights are brightest. We know how much Riley loves the guys who bring the edge and the physicality. I'm starting to get flashbacks of some of the guys that were here in the late 90s. I absolutely love this move. He checks off all the boxes, does PJ Tucker, in things that Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra are looking for in a player. And yeah, as John Stud points out, our defense is going to be crazy next year. There's no question our defense got better. I think our offense is getting a little bit better as well. And PJ Tucker and Kyle Lowry help in both of those areas, especially on defense. Now, if we're going to tackle part two of that two-part question, did the Heat get championship level better? On paper, no. That's why we play the games, though, guys. Hello, Anthony Manzano. How are you? I love everyone checking in on the chat. No, on paper, the Miami Heat do not magically have a championship level team now, but I need to see how the dust settles, not only with Miami, with the rest of the lower cost signings we make, but the way the dust settles in the rest of the Eastern Conference. Yeah, the Heat didn't make the type of splash that the Lakers made with Russell Westbrook and all the 12 dozen other signings that they made. I understand that. For the Heat to contend for a championship, okay, with their current slate of players, they essentially need everything to go right this coming season. Examples. They need Jimmy to play at an MVP contending level this year. They need Bam to take yet another step forward, and I think he is capable of doing that. Bam is getting better every season. They need Duncan Robinson to play consistently the way that he played after and even right before the trade deadline last year. So you get my point, okay? Everyone on this team essentially needs to play to their ceiling to legitimately be in the hunt for a ring. However, with a coach like Spoelstra and with leaders like Jimmy Butler and now Kyle Lowry on the team, that's not impossible. Like, it is not impossible for this team to have the vast majority of their players balling out and reaching their ceiling. The most important thing for me, and I want to bring in Sean Stanley on this conversation as well, the most important thing for me is the Miami Heat did get better yesterday and have gotten better. And I see people tearing the Heat apart for reasons I don't entirely understand. And we'll get to those during Terrible Take Tuesday, acting as if, well, if you don't automatically make your team the best on paper in the NBA, what's the point in bringing in anybody? Bros, we are trying to get better. That's the business for every front office. And Sean, I believe the Heat did that yesterday.
No, I think they definitely got better. They improved. Are they championship contenders? I mean, you always say defense wins championships, and this team is pretty good defensively. So it'll be interesting to see. And again, everybody playing to their ceilings. I agree with you there. Did they make enough moves to contend with your Brooklyns and your Milwaukees? That will have to be seen. But I do like the moves that they made yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Brooklyn, it's going to be a wild card because they've got a team full of divas and a team full of guys who can't stay healthy. Milwaukee, it's a different animal, dudes. They impressed the hell out of me. And Giannis Antetokounmpo, he has made me a fan for life. And I'm not even the only Giannis Antetokounmpo fan, even in my household right now. My brother-in-law from Greece is visiting. And, of course, dude, Greece, they are crazy over Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think, and I was having this discussion with my brother-in-law a couple weeks ago. He would know better than me, obviously. But we think Giannis Antetokounmpo is the greatest athlete in the history of Greece. Like, I don't think you can take anybody from that country in the history of Greek athletics and say this guy was a better athlete than Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't think you can do that, man. By the way, high praise to the Heat given by Fox Sports. So they called, and I love this. They did this winners and losers column, Sean, from free agency.
They love doing that.
Oh my God. And dude, I'm a sucker for it. Like, I am such a sometimes
we all are.
I think I like lists more than I like the actual games sometimes. Dude, I get so jazzed, like preseason over power rankings and projections and over under betting odds, which I love to check with our newest partners, betus.com. I get so jazzed over stuff like this that sometimes it's like I get more worked up over that than I do the actual games sometimes. But Fox Sports, they did a winners and losers column in free agency. And the Miami Heat were actually the very first team that they mentioned as a winner. They called everyone associated with the Heat a winner so far in free agency. Here's a quote from their piece. The Heat are going to try out a Butler, Lowry, Bam Adebayo trifecta, which is going to suffocate and brutalize opposing offenses. Miami was already a top 10 defense each of the past 2 seasons. Add Lowry, a defensive ace who's a genius on and off the ball, plus Tucker to the mix, and you have the ingredients for something special. Imagine trying to score against a crunch time lineup featuring those 4. They can switch across positions, wreak havoc in opposing lanes, and physically abuse teams. So let me ask you one more question, Sean Stanley. We're going to bring on Brady Hawk in about 3 minutes here, and he can really give us the skinny on what a Heat offense and what the defense will look like when you add guys like PJ Tucker and Kyle Lowry to the mix. When you look at Bam, Jimmy, and now Lowry, do you consider that a big 3? Like, does that meet your criteria to say this? We can now say the Miami Heat have a big 3.
To me personally, no. I mean, I think they're 3 great players and everything there, but I don't see that as a big 3 in the essence of when you had Wade, Bosh, and LeBron. I mean, again, some of the other teams, I think the big 3 has become like the icon or the legend word now. It's like you get 3 named players and all of a sudden you've got a big 3. I just think it's being overused now.
It has been. I mean, what was the first like modern big 3 was the one in Boston, right? With Pierce, Garnett, and Ray Allen. And then, the highest profile big 3, I think, was the one we had in Miami. But yeah, since then, it's like everyone wants to crown. Anytime you've got 3 good players, like 3 all-star caliber players, it's a big 3. Here's what I'm going to call it, Sean. I'm going to call it the low-key big 3, right? That these guys, this is more of a workman-like blue-collar big 3. These guys aren't as Hollywood, obviously, as the big 3s in Miami and the big 3s in Boston and like the big 15 or whatever it was that they had in Golden State when they had signed just about everybody. And the big 3 that they have in Brooklyn is obviously a very diva, very Hollywood type of big 3. This is more of a low-key big 3. And I like it better that way, honestly, because the higher profile your star players are and the more attention they bring, the more pressure that they bring. And I am perfectly fine with the Heat operating under the radar, below expectations, because I already see what's happening with the way that people are analyzing these moves. Like, and obviously not Fox Sports. I read you that piece. They were very complimentary. But other of these blowhard media talking heads are basically saying Kyle Lowry doesn't make the Heat better, but he would have made Philadelphia a championship team if he went there. Like, dudes, it's the same player. Like, so you think that guy would have shifted the balance of power if he'd gone to one city, but he doesn't shift the balance of power going to Miami? It's very selective, I think, the way that this team is covered by the media. So
it's the way everybody takes the shots at him.
It is. They are low-key, veiled shots that they're taking on Miami. All right, we have to bring in the man who has he's accomplished more at 18 years old than I have in many of my 36 years, with the excellent coverage he brings to the 5 Reasons Sports Network. And when it comes to amazing Miami Heat NBA breakdowns and tactical breakdowns, I can think of no one better on this network or any than Brady Hawk, who joins us now here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Brady, good afternoon to you, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me on again.
It's my pleasure. And listen, let me start off with what Sean and I were just talking about. Do you consider Lowry, Butler, and Bam, does that meet your criteria to be called a big 3?
I'd say it's a top 3. I don't know if I'd say it's a big 3. I think you need the Duncan Robinsons, you need the PJ Tuckers, you need the guys around them to make them effective. But I do think it's a solid start that you have a top 3 you can work around. 3 guys that share similar skill sets, 3 guys who defend at a high level, 3 guys who can play make at a high level. and three guys who score in different ways that they can balance off each other. I don't think it's as much of a weird fit as others would be. I think they fit in pretty well. They seem to have chemistry off the floor. It just seems it would be a top three. I don't know if I'd be so quick to call it a big three until we see it in action.
And well said. And by the way, people are echoing your sentiment on the chemistry. The chemistry is so important. And, Lowry and Jimmy have wanted to play together. And I think that's a big thing here. Give me some insight on the piece that you just published this morning at 5 Reasons Sports about what the Heat are going to look like offensively with Lowry and PJ Tucker. What are you seeing there in terms of potency, floor spacing? How do you think this is going to work out, Brady?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, it gives Erik Spoelstra options. I think that's where I start. We talk about him benefiting with Bam. He hits him with the pocket pass. He can get him in spots to score and play make. He fits it with Jimmy. It's another downhill threat, another playmaker for him to play off the ball a little bit more. But more importantly, Spoelstra has an extra option he can put in different spots. He can put Bam and Jimmy in different spots and have the ball in Lowry and trust it. Trust him to run sets through him. In that piece, that was some of the stuff I was hitting on. I think more stuff with Bam hitting him downhill, not just the pocket pass, even though I, kind of harp on that, but there's some things that he can throw over the top. They can mix some stuff in with Jimmy screening, with Duncan screening. And as much as people don't like the dribble handoff, it's got a bad rep because of Bam kind of overusing it at times. It's going to be used when you have Kyle Lowry, who led the league in points per possession with the handoff, and you have Duncan Robinson, who's basically a staple of the dribble handoff. It's going to be used. And they're going to have to use it even more. They're just going to probably have to expand it a little bit more. It's not going to be as simple. They can work stuff off the ball. And we're talking about the offense. I think the big thing with PJ Tucker compared to others is that he's not just a floor spacer like past fours that they've had. It's not just a guy you could stick on the perimeter and just have roam around. He's a guy you could put in the dunker spot down low on the box. You could have him control the interior. It just seems it gives them more flexibility than past fours is what I would probably say.
And I love the breakdown offensively because I think that's something people were a little bit less clear on. Whereas defensively, I don't know how anyone debates that the Heat are now better, right? I mean, because now, you look at the lineup, the Heat can run down in crunch time. And I just have to wonder how our team's going to score against these guys.
Yeah, I think the issue last season we always came back to was the point of attack. You've got your point of attack defender now in Lowry. Trevor Ariza in some ways saved their point of attack defense to an extent. They were sticking him on the Stephen Currys, the Kyrie Irvings, the Damian Lillards. Your power forward was guarding opposing point guards, which is not ideal. Now you have your point guard defender. What I was kind of saying about a four is you want to size up instead of size down in that position. PJ Tucker is that guy. He can guard fives, he can guard fours. He's a guy that can guard the post pretty well. It just seems like they have the tools now to benefit Bam especially. Defensively, I know people always didn't like to see him on the perimeter when a guard was guarding a big. When you have Kyle Lowry, he's going to fight through screens where you're not going to have to worry about that as often. And I think the biggest thing about Bam in these new defenders is he's always in the action on defense, where you're always having to put him in there to kind of guard both guys and contain. I think we see more of him off the ball as a freelancer, where that's where he thrives as a help guy, where he can tag, where he can close out. That's where he's at his best. When he's free on both sides of the ball, that's where he'll truly thrive.
Brady Hawk is with us here on Donno Daily, 5R Live on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Yesterday was a super busy day. It wasn't only the new additions, also the big extension for Duncan Robinson. Brady, I will admit, at the early part of last season, I'm a little bit embarrassed now about how I was screaming from a mountaintop about wanting, to trade Duncan Robinson basically for whoever. He won me over later in the year. How essential do you think he is for what Spoelstra is trying to accomplish here?
Well, yeah, for one, they were going after Lowry at the deadline, and now they have Kyle Lowry and Duncan Robinson, where Toronto was basically wanting Duncan Robinson in return. So that's a win right there. Getting him at $18 million, where there were some reports about him going up to 23, 24, that's an absolute steal as well. But from a basketball standpoint, I think it makes everything much more functional with fit moving forward. We could talk about the guys like DeRozan as a possibility. Those aren't possibilities if you don't have Duncan Robinson. Like, Duncan Robinson is the guy on offense that creates the spacing, that creates the offense to make everything work. I think there is some expansion to be done, that he's focused this offseason much more on his body, he said, much more on, trying to work the mid-range a little bit more. And if he even has a little bit more expansion to his game and with the same consistency from beyond the arc, it's a pretty it's a pretty complete player. Eric Spoelstra is very comfortable with using Duncan Robinson. He's basically his guy. He's probably the guy that was probably yelling to keep Duncan Robinson when you were yelling to try to trade him. That just seems like that's what Eric Spoelstra does. That's his guy that he can work through. And as much as they're going to try to expand Bam's game, it just seems like they're going to continue the things that Duncan's doing and kind of move forward with it.
By the way, I wanted to we got some questions coming in on the chat before we get into what the next moves could be, because I want to make sure we touch on that with Brady. But Anthony Monsanto wrote in, Brady, with us adding Kyle Lowry, do you think it's going to push Bam Adebayo's development a lot further, like what happened with DeAndre Ayton when the Suns got Chris Paul?
Actually, I think it's going to be the complete opposite. I think it makes him much better player right now. If that's what the question was, it's means that he can thrive at the moment. If you're pushing his development forward without a point guard, it just makes his job a lot harder. You got Goran, him trying to find other guys. He was looking for handoffs because he was trying to create offense for others. He's always going to create offense for others. He's an unselfish player. He's a straight playmaker. He'll always be that. But you don't want him to have to be the only guy on the roster with Jimmy Butler that can do that job. Now you have a real point guard. You have a guy that he can put in different spots with PJ Tucker, as I mentioned. Putting PJ Tucker in different spots means you can put Bam in different spots. I think people are harping on him kind of trying to expand his range to the three-point line, which would be, the development many would want. But I kind of see it kind of taking a little bit more time. I think it's going to be more with Kyle Lowry, especially more of a mid-range game, more of consistency from the mid-range. And I think that's much more important than anything for his development as a pure player, maybe not from a team perspective, but for him. If he can master the mid-range, the elbow, the baseline, that will be perfect for him. So I would say Kyle Lowry adding to this team is definitely going to be beneficial for the short term.
I love it. Great answer. So earlier, you mentioned the name DeMar DeRozan. Do you think that's still in play here, Brady? What could the next moves be for Miami, given obviously you've already shelled out a lot of money, and this is where the Andy Ellisberg cap gymnastics come into play?
Yeah, right. So there's still some of that mid-level exception. That's what everybody's kind of harping on. You could try to get a guy you could either plug in at the starting four, maybe a guy you could plug in as a backup to PJ Tucker if you want to go that route. Rudy Gay was a guy I've kind of touched on. He kind of just went to the Jazz, so that's off the market. The one guy that I've seen that has been offered and is Markieff Morris. I don't know if that's a type of option that they'd want. Obviously, it is if they extended it, but I'd see him more as the backup guy. I think fits the mold of this team: toughness, physicality. You see the Dedmons, the Lowrys, the Tuckers, all of those guys are just basically just the same model in different forms. So that kind of makes sense. In terms of DeRozan, it feels like if anybody can do it, I think we say this all the time, it's going to be Andy Ellisberg. He'll try to figure this out. There are some different routes people have mentioned with nuns and sign-in trades. Maybe convincing Lowry to take a little bit less, but it just seems like the sign and trade route is going to be the way. And for the people that talk about spacing with DeRozan, I just don't see that as an issue, whatsoever. If you can get DeRozan, first of all, you get him and you worry about that later. That's just first of all. But the second thing is that I think it's a little over harped on that you can't make it work with three non-shooters when you just have a guy like DeRozan who just averaged 22 points per game last season. You can make that work. You can have a guy like Butler take a little bit of a step back in a role that he would probably much rather. I just think you worry about that later. I don't think it's that, big of a deal. And if you could pull it off, maybe they start him at the four, as people have mentioned. Maybe you have him as a six-man. Either way, that's a perfect, type of guy to have for a next run.
I'm so glad you mentioned the name Dewayne Dedmon, because I'm kicking myself that when I started off the show and I mentioned the moves that were made and the players who were staying and going, I don't know why I neglected to mention Dewayne Dedmon. I fell in love with him last year for the brief time we saw him in a Heat uniform. And Brady, I'm glad that little love affair is going to continue.
Yeah, I mean, he was the MVP of their playoff series.
Yeah.
He was the only one that was there being effective through all four games. He was fighting through it. I said yesterday, I think that was the best signing of the day. Like, they needed that signing. If you looked at the market for backup bigs, I don't think there was one that was going to be as good as Dewayne Dedmon, fit-wise, physicality-wise, role-wise. He's a guy that's going to accept his role. We saw a little bit of him next to Bam Adebayo. Maybe we see a little bit more of that. But mostly you can trust him in the non-Bam minutes to be effective, to rebound the ball. and score at the rim, because he showed to be very efficient around the rim. And I think that's a guy you want on the interior. That's a very good deal to make, a minimum contract as well. It just seems like they're trying to fill out their bench in a certain way, and a good way to start is retaining, Dewayne Dedmon.
Brady, knowing that the Heat are not completely done and the rest of the East and the rest of the NBA are also not completely done, to be fair, but do you see what Riley is building right now? I think we can agree the Heat are getting better and have gotten better, but how much better? Do you think they're trending towards becoming a contender, at least in the East?
Oh, yeah. I think they are becoming a contender in the East. I think you got an upgrade at point guard. I heard you touching on the Goran Dragic subject. I just don't see, as much as I'm a big fan of Goran Dragic and what he's done with Miami, I just don't see a part of his game that he was better at than Kyle Lowry. I just think that's a major upgrade defensively, playmaking, shooting, all of the above. It's just a major upgrade. PJ Tucker is a better fit than the Trevor Ariza was. Now that you have, as I mentioned before, the point of attack defense, you have a bigger guy down low. The part that we're going to have to be watching is the bench. Who they add with the mid-level, who they get as a backup point possibly. Do they get back Victor Oladipo? Those are the questions to be had. And I think they kind of knew they were going in this direction anyways, because if you look at their summer league roster, it was kind of trending toward that way of adding 8 point guards who have this similar type of build. All guys who can defend, all guys who can run your offense a bit. They've had success with undrafted guys in the past. As much as people probably don't want to see a guy straight out of college being your backup point guard or contender, that's probably the Heat way. They trust in guys like that. Could it be Gabe Vincent? Could it be a guy that shines starting tonight in Summer League? I think it could be one or the other.
Brady, when we last spoke about a week ago, you and I were both very iffy on Team USA basketball in the Olympics, whether or not they can win a gold. Now, they did advance past Spain very, very late last night. I relied on watching highlights because I'm old and washed. And I've already sent the thank you card to Kevin Durant for really bailing out Team USA. He was fantastic and super necessary in that victory. So has your opinion changed? Because I think your answer to me a week ago, and I agreed with you, when I asked you if USA is going to win the gold, you said probably not. So are you looking at it differently now?
I feel like there's a point that they just have to make shots. Like, that's what it comes down to. If you're watching these games, they're getting good looks. They're creating good looks. When that wasn't the case probably a week ago when I said probably not, I'd probably lean more to the probably, because I trust these NBA level guys to make open threes, even though it's not their role in the NBA. They're more on-ball guys playing in off-ball roles now. It just feels like they just have to make their open shots from three early on. It feels like if they capitalize on that, that wouldn't have been in the spot that they were in. They have to defend at a higher level. But it seems like they have the rotation down finally. They have the offense running smoother than it was a week ago, where I probably lean more to the probably and than probably not.
Well said. And hey, like you see it on the screen there, whether you're watching us live or you're watching on replay, make sure you smash that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. But the likes go a long way. And make sure you let people know we do these live shows every single weekday from noon to 1 p.m. And we bring on great people like Brady Hawk to talk about the Heat and talk about the Dolphins and Canes and all the local teams. And make sure you guys follow Brady and follow his work. In fact, I would say for any Heat fan, a couple of must reads on 5reasonsports.com right now. The piece Brady wrote yesterday about DeMar DeRozan and floor spacing and debunking that myth a little bit, which I appreciated, and his piece from today about PJ Tucker and Kyle Lowry and how they will affect the Heat offensively. So make sure you check that out and follow Brady. Brady, thank you so much for the time, my friend, and enjoy the rest of this offseason whirlwind.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Love it. Awesome stuff there, as always, by Brady Hawk. And in about 10 minutes, we're going to be joined by Antwan Staley, talk some Dolphins and talk some NFL with him. We do have the pads on in training camp for the first time today. I've been following the tweets of some of our great reporters like Louis D. Sung and Kai Chen Chisholm, who are out there on behalf of 5 Reasons watching it live. And trenches, guys, when you put on the pads for the first time, it is all about the trenches. Dolphins offensively have been running the football a lot, and defensively, the run is getting stuffed a lot. So the complexion changes a little bit. Actually, I would say the complexion changes a lot when the pads come on. But before we bring in Antwan Staley, want to debut a favorite segment of mine that I've done on other platforms, and I'm happy to import it here to the 5 Reasons Sports family. It is time, my friends, for another Terrible Take Tuesday. Terrible Take Tuesday is proudly brought to you by You Brake Wheel Fix. Mark and his wheel repair and refinishing techs have over 20 years of experience, guys. They know what they're doing. They are dedicated to providing high-quality repairs for cracked, bent, or damaged rims and wheels. And by the way, they get the job done quickly, and they get it done right with a quality guarantee. They've got 5 stars on Yelp and 5 stars on Google. So if you trust reviews, you know you're getting something good with You Brake Wheel Fix. They love our local sports teams, guys. You can get your wheels. Not only can you get them fixed, but this is my favorite. You can get them customized in Heat, Dolphins, or Canes colors, Inter Miami, much, much more. Make sure you follow them on Instagram because they post all the awesome shots of the wheels that people get customized. You can find them at 1861 Northeast 146th Street in Miami, on the web at youbrakewheelfix.com. They do incredible work, and we welcome them to the family. So, if we're starting out the first edition of Terrible Take Tuesday here on 5 Reasons, it's got to be Heat related for today. I was watching a video of Stephen A. Smith. I think it was on The Jump, not on First Take. They were talking about Kyle Lowry to Miami, and I wanted to repeatedly bang my head against a wall. So Stephen A. Smith on Lowry arriving in the 305 said, quote, "I'm not moved. I just have to be honest with you," he said. He goes on to talk about how he said, hey, the last time we saw the Miami Heat, they were getting swept by the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. And he says Kyle Lowry will not be the difference in moving farther in the playoffs. He said that if Lowry, this is what drives me crazy, he's not the only one to say this. He said that if Lowry was added to the 76ers, he would be the difference in that team winning a title, but he won't be the difference for the Miami Heat. GTFO, okay? First of all, I am tired of the bum-ass 76ers who haven't proven anything always getting this kind of respect that the Heat don't get. Second of all, Stephen A., he did admit in that rant that Lowry makes the Heat better than Goran Dragic did. So, guys, isn't the goal at the end of the day to get better? Shouldn't that always be a priority for every front office to make moves that make your team better? So if your criteria and Stephen A. Smith's criteria essentially is, does signing this player make us definitely better than the reigning NBA champions? If not, we're not going to sign him. If that's your attitude, what's even the point? If you're only willing to make moves that you think make you the best team in the world on paper, never mind the fact that the Heat have an excellent coaching and conditioning staff. The best goddamn general manager God ever made in Pat freaking Riley, an owner like Mickey Arison who's committed, a team that routinely gets the best out of their players. If you think the Heat shouldn't be signing Kyle Lowry or anyone else because it doesn't automatically make them a championship favorite, it's a terrible take. And more importantly, it's a lazy take. It's a real lazy take to think I shouldn't sign player X because player X doesn't automatically make us better than the Milwaukee Bucks. It's really annoying. The second terrible, you don't want to see Donno when he's angry, right? So Miami Sports Music. I'm angry so rarely, that if I'm ever angry about something, it's got to be something big. I'm the most laid back, happy-go-lucky guy. And there's only certain things that make me angry. When you unnecessarily slander my sports teams, that makes me angry. When you push a pineapple on pizza agenda, that makes me angry. Although those are probably, I don't get angry over other people's politics or religion. No, I get angry about my sports and my pizza. That's pretty much it. But the next terrible take, and this is, I cast a wide net with this one. And I know these people exist because I've heard from these people. Any Dolphin fans who were or still are defending Chan Gailey and that they were blaming Tua for everything last year and giving Chan Gailey, who thank God is no longer our offensive coordinator. Like, I don't care how many OCs you have now. You've got co-OCs. You could give play calling duties to the entire offensive staff, and I would rather have that than old man Chan, okay? So Eric Rowe spoke to the media yesterday and said something illuminating, but not surprising, because I've been saying the same thing going back to last year. Eric Rowe said, quote, "Last year, I even noticed his playbook," talking about Tua, "was condensed to slants and bubbles. they really wouldn't let him show his arm. And now seeing in training camp, he's got a lot more deep routes. They're allowing him to throw it deep. That's what we need, Eric Rose said. Hallelujah. Finally, we realize what's going on here. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to our guy, Juan Cardona, because he made a funny point on Twitter the other day. You know, unfortunately, you've got a bunch of Dolphins tight ends and the tight ends coach / co-offensive coordinator, George Godsey, who have been quarantined due to COVID. I hope they're feeling good. Like, I know Godsey was already vaccinated, so hopefully he's, feeling fine, not showing any symptoms. I pray that's the case. But I thought Cardona made a good point and said, hey, that's why we've got 2 OCs, right? If one of them is out of commission, if Godsey's out of commission, you've got Eric Studesville calling plays in practice, and you don't skip a beat, man. You don't skip a beat. Oh, man. I love, by the way, how the live chat has turned into people defending pineapple on pizza. Manny Chang is creeping into the chat talking about pineapple. Stephen D at Miami Sports Music says, love pineapple on pizza. Sincerely, your friend, Stephen D. I love pineapple. I love pizza. Some things just don't belong together. Like my first ex-girlfriend. We didn't belong together. She was awesome. I was awesome. It was just a very terrible mix. Kind of like pineapple on pizza. Oh, and now I've got Manny Chang slandering Nutella, which is my favorite food on the planet. Come on. Now, see, Manny found the other hot button for me. My hot buttons are pineapple on pizza, bad takes about my sports teams, and slander on Nutella. Anything else I can tolerate. Anything else I can tolerate. Another, what I thought was a terrible take, I got to bring in Sean Stanley to expand on this a little bit, because he's my pro wrestling guy. He is my designated pro wrestling fanatic. He hosts One Fall here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network with Jonathan Ramlakan, who's joining us later this week, by the way, and Jakari Givens, who already joined us this week. Sean, why did, what was it, the USA Network? They actually interrupted Olympic coverage. Like, we're talking about a once every 4-year event when everyone but me, because apparently I'm anti-American, but everyone else capes up for the USA, on all the NBC family of networks. This is a once in 4-year event. Whereas Monday Night Raw happens once every week, and I haven't watched it in 20 years because it got incredibly stale in 2001. So why would I tune back in? Are you telling me they interrupted Olympic coverage to bring Monday Night Raw?
Yes, they actually went to a live feed of somebody to break in and say, we now interrupt your U.S. Olympic coverage to go to Monday Night Raw, and we will be right here as soon as Monday Night Raw goes off the air. They took a 3-hour break so that Monday Night Raw could come on and then right back to the Olympics.
Now, give me the actual skinny on this, because I know you love pro wrestling, and I don't know if you're trying to butter up to Vince McMahon to get a job or something, so I don't know if I can actually get unfiltered Sean. But is Monday Night Raw still good? Because I even see the pro wrestling junkies are all like, oh, Raw, WWE is stale. AEW is where it's at. It's like the counterculture is all in on AEW. Like, Sean, Vince McMahon is probably not watching, so I think you're okay. You can still get your dream job. Admit to me, Monday Night Raw sucks.
Monday Night Raw is garbage, minus 2 things that they got going right now. Maybe 3. You got Riddle, you've got the Hurt Business, and then right now you've got actually just those 2 things. That's about it. Other than that, not much. I do the morning after is what I call it, to talk about the shows. I ran last week's Raw again this week just because it's the same damn thing every week.
Ooh, that's not good. By the way, Riddle, is that Matt Riddle, the former MMA fighter? I know he does wrestling now. So is that the same guy?
Apparently he comes on to WWE TV and they're not allowed to use their first name, so now he's just Riddle.
I mean, it is kind of a better name. I mean, his actual God-given name is Matt Riddle. And for a pro wrestler, I think just Riddle sounds better than Matt Riddle. So I wanted to make sure it was the same person.
Yeah, same person.
All right, we're going to go back out to the guest line and bring in a very, very good friend of ours here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. And man, this he and I go back way too long. I start to age myself a little bit when I think about how long I've been running in the same circles as our next guest, Antwan Staley, who is many years of service on the Dolphins beat, on the Carolina Panthers beat, covering the National Football League and college football. Antwan, good afternoon to you, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. And before we get into football, I want to talk about something a little bit more important because I need to ask you about a sandwich that you tried this week. I think Manny has the tweet we can pull up. So Antoine Staley recently tried the Bojangles chicken sandwich. Now, everyone knows there is a sandwich war going on. You know, you got Popeyes, Chick-fil-A, KFC recently did a new sandwich. Even some of the local spots, like I know Miami Grill, they've really been pumping up their chicken sandwich, and I really enjoy that one. I've tried most of them, Antoine, but I've not tried Bojangles only because I don't live anywhere close to one. I actually Google mapped it this morning. This is how obsessed I was with your tweet. I Google mapped it, and I live 319 miles away from the nearest Bojangles location. So you tried the sandwich this week. You tell me, is it worth driving 319 miles for?
Nah, it's not. It's a good sandwich. Don't get me wrong. I love Bojangles. I grew up in North Carolina, obviously, so I'm partial to them. But it's not the best sandwich in the world. But it is good though. It's worth trying. It's worth seeing if you like it. It has a little bit of a kick to it. If you tried Zaxby's, which I know
I haven't tried that either.
Yeah, that could be they have some in Palm Beach County, but they don't have any in Broward or Miami-Dade, which is I found it strange. But
dude, hey, Antoine, I live in the southern part of Dade County. Palm Beach County might as well be Minnesota. Like, if anyone asked me, like, hey, like, do you want to meet up for lunch? I'm in Lake Worth. I'm like, no, bro. It'd be easier for me to like hop on a flight to Atlanta. I'd be there quicker than I'd be in Palm Beach County.
Yeah, you live down at the bottom, if I'm not mistaken. So a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I think it's good for me. Like if we talk about chicken sandwich, obviously a lot of people talk about Popeyes, but I love PDQ, and like I try to pump people up. People keep saying, "Well, what is PDQ?" I've never heard of that, but they have them in Miami-Dade. They have them in Broward. I'm telling you, if you hadn't tried it, go get it. And also, they have a honey chicken sandwich that's really good, and also the blue. I forgot what is
Buffy Blue. That's my favorite.
Buffy Blue is really good too. So those are my two favorite chicken sandwiches right now.
Fantastic. So we will actually. It's funny every time we start talking food. 75% of people love it, and then like 25% of people are like, I thought this was a sports show. Oh my God. I thought this was a sports show. What are you doing? I got news for you. This show is like 70% sports, 30% food. So be ready for that, man.
Yeah, you gotta throw everything else out there. Like, yeah, you gotta entertain everybody, right?
You know, that's fair because I do. It seems like it's kind of a slow time for TV, but I talk a lot of like TV shows and movies as well. Ray says, darn it, I'm hungry now. Sorry, Ray, for making you hungry. Oh, yeah. Antoine, something that's been a narrative up to this point in Dolphins training camp so far, and I think the complexion's going to change a little bit now that pads are on. You know, we'll be watching the trenches a lot closer, but when the pads were off, it was explosive play after explosive play on offense, and I think some people are surprised at just how well and effectively Tua was slinging it downfield. I read a quote a little bit earlier from Eric Rowe, a defensive player, talking about how he sees the difference in the playbook, that Tua is going downfield at being aggressive, and it was all bubble screens last year and short throws for Tua. So in your mind, keeping in mind that, Tua actually can focus on his body and on the playbook this year, when last year he was focusing, I'm sure at this time of year, on rehabbing his hip. Do you think Tua is going to have a big year 2 bounce?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a much better year. I know a lot of people came into the year just talk about Deshaun Watson. Should the Dolphins decide to pursue that? Do they keep Tua? Or some people are already looking towards the 2022 class of quarterbacks. But I love Tua. I think like last year we just kind of watched him because he came in at a weird situation after week 7. Ended up replacing Fitzpatrick. He has some ups and downs. It's a typical rookie. I mean, not everybody can come out and throw 50 touchdowns or do what Justin Herbert did. But and I also feel like this year with the offense, the way it is structured, and especially last year with Chan Gailey, I feel like that offense was structured around Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't feel like this year, I feel like David structured the offense around Tua. And I think that's the big difference there. And I think you're seeing the confidence in him. And I think he's definitely showing that too as well. And the players see that too. The players see that before anybody else. And so, yeah, I saw the Eric Rowe quote, and heard what he said, and it's really reflective on what's going on in practice right now. So I'm not really surprised that he's starting to turn things around. I knew he would too. It's just going to take people time to let him develop, because it takes time for players to develop. People have to understand that. I mean, he's still a young guy and going into his second year.
If we had like secret VIP access to the Miami Dolphins brain trust, and if you were to find out today that, hey, you know what, there's actually chatter of, making a big trade and an opportunity to bring Deshaun Watson in. I know the Dolphin fan base is very split on this. Personally, I just think the guy has way too much baggage right now, and I've got way too many concerns, not only about the accusations themselves, but, just about what kind of guy he really is, because I feel like the curtain was like lifted and we're getting kind of an insight on Deshaun Watson, what type of a guy he might really be, when his image, prior to 6 months ago was squeaky clean. Now I really have my doubts. And so I'm encouraged by seeing Tua do so much better. But if you found out the Dolphins had the opportunity tonight to pull the trigger on a trade to bring in Deshaun Watson, do you think the juice would be worth the squeeze there? Or are you saying no thanks?
We've both been in NFL locker rooms with the Dolphins, so we know that it's not all rainbows and sunshine, and players aren't necessarily not every player is a role model type of person. Now, this is just like very alarming, especially when you have this many women coming out accusing one person of sexual assault and other extracurricular things. I would be worried, not just because of just the character of him. I'm more worried is he even going to play this year? That's the main thing for me. Like, I don't know if he's going to play. And if you don't know if he's going to play and be on the field, then that's concerning, because you're trading a guy. You'd be giving up on a guy in Tua in his second year. It seems like he's starting to come on for a guy that Deshaun Watson, the top 5, top 6 quarterback in the league. Yeah, but will the NFL put on the commissioner's list? Will they suspend him? Like, we don't know. There's a lot of red flags there and a lot of unknowns there. So for me, I probably would say no to him, because there's so much unknown going on with Deshaun Watson right now, just off the field. And I really don't know if he's going to play this year. If he does play, then obviously it'd be an upgrade for the Dolphins or any team. But it's just the fact of the matter is nobody's sure what's going to happen.
Over the last week, the Xavien Howard saga, it blew up initially, and I think it's calmed down a little bit, because people have realized, including Xavien, I think, that the Dolphins have just so much more leverage than he has right now. After him, signing that huge extension a couple of years ago, he feels like he's outplayed it. And, last year he probably did. But I can understand why the Dolphins don't feel a need to redo it or even to trade him. If they were to trade him, though, Antoine, now, obviously, you would get, I'm sure, a nice compensation package, like nothing like you got for Laramie Tunsil a couple of years ago.
Oh, no.
Nothing like that, because Laramie was so much younger and he was on his rookie deal. So you would get a nice compensation package, but obviously you're not, at least not immediately, replacing Xavien Howard. So if they were to trade him away, how much worse does it make that defense, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I mean, Bill O'Brien's in Alabama right now, so you're definitely not getting King's ransom for any kind of player right now.
I don't know, maybe with the name, image, and likeness thing, maybe you can trade some Alabama player. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe so. But all joking aside, I mean, I definitely think he would bring in a first-round pick, especially for a contender. It might be in the lower first round. And you might be able to get maybe a conditional first round off the top of that, or a second, and maybe like a 4th or 5th round. Because let's face it, Hetz is one of the top corners in football. I don't think he's the best corner in football, but I definitely think he's one of the top cornerbacks at his position. So yeah, anytime you lose that or don't have that on your team, it's definitely gonna hurt your side defense in that side of the ball. So he means a lot to that team, especially the way the Dolphins structure their defense. And obviously, you get Byron Jones too there, so they want to solidify the cornerback position. And to have a guy that can just shut down one side of the field, it's very rare in the NFL you can do that. And it's about 5 or 6 guys in the league, and he's definitely one of them. So yeah, I definitely think it's beneficial for the Dolphins, unless they get something they just cannot refuse, which I don't see that's going to happen. I think it makes more sense for him to just – I always thought he should just play the year out, see what we can do, and then next year revisit this whole situation, especially when the salary cap money will go up and he could potentially have another big year. Maybe not 10 interceptions, but another big year too on top of it. But yeah, I just feel like he really doesn't have a lot of leverage. That's kind of what you alluded to. And also, I kind of pointed this out too on Twitter. He's had some good years, but he also has some injury-plagued years too as well. So I see why the Dolphins are kind of hesitant to just give him money off of one really great year. They want to see him do it again. If he can do it consistently once again, then yeah, I by all means, like, yeah, go ahead, give him some kind of guaranteed money there, and it's how to lock him up for the years to come.
Which of the Dolphins' Jalen's do you think is going to have a better rookie season, Jalen Waddle or Jalen Phillips?
I think they could have really both good years, but I probably would go more Waddle just because I think he's going to be able to touch the ball and affect the game in so many different ways, not only just as a receiver, but depending on what happens with Jakeem Grant and what their shuffled wide receivers, he could be the punt returner or maybe the kick returner. I think you're going to be able to get him the ball in so many different ways, and I think the Dolphins are going to find a way in order to do that. I think he's going to really have a huge effect on that team. A lot of people were already kind of pegging him as kind of like a Tyreek Hill light. I don't know. I'm not necessarily trying to go that far yet. I kind of want to see how he is on the field, but I definitely think if Waddle could really have a really big year there for the Dolphins and really, really transform that defense. And Phillips, I think, is going to have a sensational year too. It's just hard with pass rushers because sometimes the light bulb goes off, but sometimes it takes them a little bit longer to get the game up under him. But I definitely could see him having like a 6 or 7 sack season, which I think is pretty good, especially for a rookie.
By the way, I know Manny is starting to understand, Manny Chang, who's behind the scenes, why I love talking food with Antwan, because Manny even noticed, he said, I peeped that Flanagan's cup, my man. In fact, I just saw you take a sip out of that. So I know my guy knows food. And by the way, Manny, do you have that the tweet that I sent you, Omar Kelly replying to my friend and former coworker, Tito Banach. So Tito asked Omar, and these are the types of questions that only Tito can come up with. You see it there, Omar. If you could compare Tua to a type of breakfast sandwich, what would it be? And Tito said his easy answer is bacon, egg, and cheese, but I'm thinking he's more bacon, avocado, egg, and cheese. And then Omar's response, I don't know how, I thought Tito actually hit it on the head. I don't know how I feel about Omar's response. Omar writes, Tua is an everything bagel with cream cheese topped with some lox. I love me a good bagel, but I'm not a fan of the everything bagel, Antoine. I just think there's way too much going on with the everything bagel.
Oh, I love it. I love both of those. Like, I love the everything bagel. If done right, it's pretty amazing too. You got to have the right amount of cream cheese on there too in the lot. So yeah, I would probably say that's in my top 5. But yeah, I think Tito hit it right there. Like that. Yeah, the bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel. Like, it's hard to go wrong with that. That is like clutch every time. So yeah, that would be the top for me.
Make sure you guys follow Antwan at Antwan Staley on Twitter, ANTWAN Staley. That's where you get all of his takes, whether it be the food takes that I prod him on or all the football stuff as well. Donno would like the everything bagel if it had Nutella. Manny wrote. Oh, and I believe Alex Aguirre, who I love as well. Alex I've worked with before. He's an awesome dude. He says simple is more. Yeah, I like a plain bagel. I like an onion bagel. If I'm in a real crazy mood, I'll get the poppy seed. You know, if I want to fail an unnecessary drug test later in the day, I'll get the poppy seed bagel. But yeah, no, I don't know. The everything is just a lot. But Antwan, I can't thank you enough for taking the time, my man. Enjoy the rest of your week.
All right, take care, guys.
Good stuff as always there by Antoine Staley. By the way, I was peeping the Twitter timeline of our guy Adam Barai to see what's going on. I'm not quite sure if he's awake yet because I feel like the people who stayed up till like 4 a.m, covering free agency and watching USA Spain in the Olympics last night are probably sleeping very late, and I envy them. I haven't slept past 7 o'clock in like 3.5 years, and dude, I used to be a night owl. But I saw Adam Barai write, Goran Dragic is a Miami Heat legend. The Dragon played 7 seasons for the Heat, and as fans, we are honored to call you a Heat lifer. Your jersey will hang in the rafters one day soon. We will always root for you, at Goran Dragic. I couldn't agree more. I want to make it a thing where Heat fans far and wide put some respect on Goran's name, because I feel like he is underappreciated and undervalued. And yeah, you see Manny put it on the screen there. The message that Goran wrote to Heat fans and the Heat organization, nothing but class. I remember when a guy who used to wear the number 6 with Miami, not Eddie Jones, the other one. I remember when a guy who used to wear the number 6 left the Heat back in the summer of 2014. It took like 3 years to get a thank you. It took like 3 years to get any sort of a thank you to the Heat fan. Goran Dragic is nothing but class. Unfortunately, Goran will be forever undervalued because the team just wasn't great enough to win a championship during Goran's tenure. You know, I'm not going to make too many friends when I say this, but anyone who tries to argue that Mario Chalmers was a better Heat point guard than Goran Dragic, I want to shoot you to the other side of the galaxy. Goran Dragic, I might even say he's the greatest point guard in Heat history. Apologies to Timmy Hardaway. Apologies to Rio. I think Goran Dragic, for me, best point guard in Miami Heat history. And I have nothing but respect for that man's Miami Heat tenure. Absolutely nothing but respect for it. Goran Dragic, like Barai pointed out, he's going to have the jersey hanging in the rafters. He's probably not going to get a statue, right? I mean, I would still say the only Heat folks who deserve the statue are definitely Pat. They should have chiseled that statue already. Dwayne Wade should get a statue, and that's probably about it. If they give LeBron a statue, I'll throw up. I know his jersey's going to get hung. Yeah, Alex Aguirre says Dragic, Timmy, and Rio. That's his order for best point guards in Miami Heat history. Show some respect on Goran Dragic's name, my friends. Oh, man. So what do we have on tap for tomorrow? I know we're going to talk some Miami Hurricanes tomorrow. Ooh, NFL drama? Well, what is the NFL drama? Who's on this? Manny, can you explain? Sean? Oh, massive fight here at Giants camp. Corey Clement busted a big run. Logan Ryan leveled Evan Ingram late. Oh, man. Somehow Daniel Jones ended up on the bottom of the pile. Why do fights and controversy always follow Joe Judge around? Like, you see all these stories with Joe Judge. Joe Judge lines whole team up on the goal line, and now the entire team is running 100-yard gassers. You know, they do say, I'm a little old school, they do say that training camp hasn't officially started until you get your first fight, right? Like, I can remember, guys, even before I was in the media, 20 years ago, I would go out to Dolphin training camp practices in Davie. And by the way, huge thank you to Stephen D for the nice message. I think you're the best in history. My mother would agree with you. I don't know how many other people would agree. But Sean, I'm old school, man. When I used to go to Dolphins training camp sessions 20 years ago, you know, when you would get that first fight of training camp, you know, I will admit, I didn't go to any practices during the Shula era. So I was about to lie and say when Don Shula was the coach. No, I didn't actually go to any training camp practices until the Wanstead era, if I'm being completely honest here. But, you know, they would always say it's not training camp until you get your first scrum. I think it's healthy.
Yeah, I think it's going on a lot today, too, because there was another one. I was trying to find it back on because once I saw Manny send a message, there was another littler brawl than this one there. But I can't believe that the Lions haven't had one yet with old school Dan the Man Campbell there.
Oh, dude, he's probably like encouraging them to fight. Like Dan Campbell is probably like, hey, did you hear what he said about your mother? Like, why don't you go over and hit him?
Yeah, starting stuff in the locker room. But yeah, no, you're right. It doesn't start until there's a brawl.
Now, if somebody suffers like an injury in said brawl and they're on the IR, then that's not good. However, that's natural selection because if you're not tough enough to get through a fight, you're not tough enough to play in the NFL.
That's true, but how does the pile get over Daniel Jones? That's the one guy out of everybody. You grab Daniel Jones first and be like, "Hey, stay over here." How does he end up on the bottom of a pile?
That's true.
It's the Giants, baby. It's the Giants.
That's the guy. It's everybody's job to protect. You're right about that. Oh, man. Daniel Jones. Oh, man. I've had so much fun today. A huge shout out and thank you to Sean Stanley, who's part on the scenes, part behind the scenes, and doing an awesome job. Manny Chang, who's behind the scenes, although I think Manny is trying to get suspended because he keeps like hit me with pot shots about Nutella being bad, which is such a lie, and pineapple belonging on pizza, which is an even bigger lie. But we appreciate Manny's work regardless of that. Guys, make sure you take advantage of the deal we're offering you. Brand new sponsor. We welcome them to the show. I'm so happy to have BetUS.com aboard. It is my preferred sports book. I have tried several of the online sports books, and I can understand why BetUS is America's favorite sports book and why they are the highest rated. It's very simple to use. They have odds on literally anything you can imagine. Like if a thought pops into your head, they've got an over-under on it. Like there's nothing you cannot find. Like I'll give you an example. A buddy of mine several months ago who's really into professional lacrosse was giving me betting recommendations on pro lacrosse. And I was using a different sports book at that time, and they did not have odds on lacrosse. And I created an account for BetUS, and they had odds on everything I was looking for. It really is America's favorite sports book, and it is my favorite sports book. You can bet with the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. You can join now with our code for a 125% bonus, or if you use crypto, a 200% bonus. Use our code at checkout, 5RSN125. The 125 is for 125%. Use our code 5RSN125 for a 125% sign-up bonus at BetUS.com. And of course, make sure you're checking out the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. Got a UFC pay-per-view event coming up this Saturday. And if you don't want to, pay for it at home, they've got you covered, my friends. Every UFC pay-per-view fight for zero cover charge at the Quarterdeck Seafood Bar and Neighborhood Grill. The food is delicious. The buffalo shrimp is my favorite appetizer on planet Earth. I love the fresh sushi and the build-your-own poke bowls at the Quarterdeck. The ribs are elite. The burgers are to die for. The sandwiches are great. The new Italian beef sandwich has become my favorite menu item. It's a new item, and it's delicious. The jerk chicken sandwich is awesome as well, guys. The beer is always cold, and the cocktails will cure your ales. So to find the location nearest to you or to peep their menu, you can visit them at quarterdeckrestaurants.com. The Quarterdeck, come for the food, stay for the fun. All right, guys, I had a great time. We'll be back tomorrow at noon with the crew, Sean Stanley and Manny Chang. Huge shout out to everyone on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. By the way, guys, if you're looking for your free agency fix and your Miami Heat updates, this is your one-stop shop. 5reasonsports.com and 5 Reasons Sports YouTube, the best and most updated information. And this is the only platform, 5 Reasons, that actually scratches my itch to give me enough, right? Because on a lot of the other websites and blogs, they're not giving me the frequent enough updates to really illustrate what's happening behind the scenes with Riley Ellisberg and company. 5 Reasons Sports is all freaking over it. So check out 5reasonsports.com and 5 Reasons YouTube, offering everything you need. We will talk to you guys again tomorrow on another episode of Donno Daily here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.